It's slow.
Waiting for the technology to catch up.
You need some help with it?
Can you help me?
Can I help? Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually dropping. No,
it's
no, what I mean is it's red right up here. Red here. So then connecting.
sorry.
Did you get that email? Copy that I
So I can always push it out.
Negligence.
sent?
Mr. Chairman, we're ready.
Sir,
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I will shoot it again then.
Okay.
It's just.
Good afternoon. I have 1:04 in the afternoon on the 25th of January, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, Chairman or Madam Secretary. I imagine you have everybody listed properly.
Yes, I do.
We have a couple of guests you might want to notice, Mr. Nick Lowline from Connexus and so
Heather Brooks, which I will
Heather.
give you a little more detail under the city report.
we'll give you an opportunity to explain.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Second item on the agenda then is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
I have none. I would make a motion to approve.
I would like to have a little discussion.
Okay,
Item 2 is the swearing in of Mr. Dan Erickson.
okay.
Although we know he's been sworn in the past, I think we'll forego the swearing in for this meeting and we'll catch him next month. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here today. And secondly, I'd like to leave the selection of officers until next month when Mr. Erickson will be here. We can have a full body here to make that change. Anything else you see there that needs to be changed? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on. So we're not going to have that. I would like to welcome Mr. Jules Zimmer as our liaison to the city council. Glad to have you back, sir.
Thank you. Good to be
Always
here.
good to have you here. And as long as we're dealing with city council members, also glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Nice to be here.
Let's, we'll come back to you after just a little bit. Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
Approval of minutes. Take a look at the minutes from last month. Commissioner Swartz, any additions?
I read it through. I have no questions.
Okay. Make a move.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written from December 15th.
Second. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried. So during this public comment section, we ordinarily have an opportunity for somebody in the community to come in and visit. Anybody ask for an audience? Okay, at this point, then I'll take a moment. I should just mention for the record that we have Mr. Nick Lowline here from Connexus. Keep an eye on us, make sure we're doing that right. And just to see what we're doing. And Michelle, do you want to introduce your colleague here?
Sure, I can do that now. I was going to do it under our city update, but I will do so now. Everybody, this is Heather Brooks. She's on day 3. She's our new community development manager. So she is she's we hired her to replace Stephanie, so we've kept her busy so far. So she likely will not attend regularly, but I thought it would be important for her to come to this meeting and for you to be introduced to her. And so that if you're doing city business and you need something development related or community event related, because she met with Kim Young of the piece of the chamber today. She's got a whole laundry list of projects and all kinds of fun stuff. So
You'll find a way to keep her busy.
oh yeah, she's already, we met on Monday about 2 hours after she started, and I had a one-page list, single space of just community stuff. So
Heather, glad to have you here.
yeah.
Glad to behave yourself in the background. Okay, good comment. Good to move on then. To memos, resolution of official depositories. This is kind of one of those annual tasks. We say, yes, this is where we keep the money kind of thing, Steve.
Correct. The first one is the designation of official depositories, places where we have deposit accounts and temporary investment of funds for principal utilities. They include Bremer Bank in Princeton, First Bank and Trust in Princeton, Spire, U.S. Bank, Sherburne State Bank in Princeton, Edward Jones in Princeton, and Northland Trust. We are required each year to designate, to officially declare who our official depositories are. And so that is resolution 22-01.
I'd like to make a motion to approve those listed depositories for Princeton Public Utilities.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Resolution of the official newspaper.
Yes, sir. Same thing. We're required to designate the official newspaper for notices for Princeton Public Utilities, and that it will be the Union Times. That would be resolution 22-02 of your packets.
We'll make a motion to approve the official newspaper as the Union Times. Any seconds?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next is the certification of the accounts payable.
I've gone through them. I don't see anything. I had a question earlier, but that's been resolved. With that said, I make a recommendation, a motion to approve.
Kathy, what was the one I asked you about? Do you recall? There was one weird one that.
That was our software. That was our billing software.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Line 52.
Yeah, that would be the same one.
Yeah. Yes.
The Nebraska Municipal
Same question.
Power Pool.
Yeah, okay, so we have to pay for our software apparently. Hold on. Okay, so motion has been made to accept and certify the accounts payable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion is carried.
Throw our eyes. Pick out the same things.
It's a weird one, but you won't throw it.
Well, when I saw Nebraska,
My cousin Murray in Lincoln, but that's okay. Reports, presentations, the financial reports and whatnot that we get from SIPA are included. Mr. Butcher, are there anything?
No, if you see the packets is the minutes from the simple board meeting, the PU metrics, and so it's kind of a typical recognition. The simple is planning for this year, but also that for my general manager.
Of course, EV usage. You have any notes, or are they, to be honest, I didn't see the EV usage on it.
It is in the EV usage is in the packets at the end, right after the cash reserves. The only thing I would point out is these are through December 31st, but they are pre-audited numbers. So oftentimes after the audit, there might be a couple little tweaks here and there, nothing major, but just did want to point out that those are pre-audited numbers for 2021.
On a side note on EV usage,
Yes.
I bumped into a guy while I was out for lunch, picking up a Subway sandwich the other day. The guy drove up with a Tesla. And I struck up a conversation, asked him how he liked the car. He loves it. It's 3 or 4 years old, if I remember correctly. Said, I asked him if he used the EV charging stations here in town. I said, well, not very often. He said, because he has a charging station at his office, but he has used the one down by Runner Automotive. Did you know we had a fast charger at Coborn's? No idea. Really? That would be good. So it was kind of a note to me that maybe we need to do a better job of letting people know in town here that we have that fast charger over there. I noticed it's been used. I've been there and people are plugged in. So I don't think there's been a line or anything, but so I was curious that he's from down here. I didn't realize we had. So we need to do a better job.
Okay.
Doing that. Okay. Updates. Moving on to our colleagues across the street. Jeremy, you're first.
Yes, we had a light pole damaged on 21st Avenue earlier this week. From my county plow clipped it. They got it repaired, got it back working. There is a solar project on a house on Highway 95 that they're working on right now. Guys went on actually just before I came over here to turn that back on. Done a little bit of tree trimming. We removed the decorations from downtown, obviously. Most of you have probably seen that. I spent a couple days at a electric design workshop. Tim was at the MMU 18 conference last week. We had some JTNS training last month, and we actually have a double session again tomorrow. And then we've completed our inventory. Kathy and I have gone through our list, getting ready to complete that. And then just meter reading, and I believe we'd have some disconnects towards the end of the week here.
Okay. On the water side, Mr. Schmidt.
On the water side, we had Kurt from Minnesota Rural Water up and Paul from Utility Logics up here. Did some locator training with the guys. Spent part of the day there, getting some a little more hands-on stuff there. We've got a couple frozen water meters, some furnaces that went out that we've gotten repaired and people back in action. Monthly back key samples have been completed. Inventories pretty much there. We're gonna meet with Kathy and finalize that up, and we should be going good there. And then Kenny and Jim were at training for a couple days for their testing for their water licenses. So we're doing for them. Progress there.
Good. Thank you.
You also want to mention that we ran today and we're running tomorrow, correct?
Correct. Yep, old units tomorrow. And then for the power plant stuff there, the Clint was up. We completed some deviation reports for the ended runs. Bob Simple was also up and did some updates on the Payable. Not a lot of issues that people have been having, so, but they've been, everybody's been, the other plants around have been holding good on their stuff too, so. And then had a circulating pump on the boiler heat system go out that they repaired it. Got that back in action, so.
The running that we're doing yesterday and today, is that our standard monthly?
Yes.
Or have we been called?
Is it today and tomorrow? Or is
Yeah.
Yep.
today, tomorrow?
Oh, they're doing, which,
Ran, unit 7 ran today, and then tomorrow we'll run the old units.
I'm sorry. what-
Tomorrow we'll be running the old units, and today we ran the cat.
So what time do you start that up?
9.
Night?
Thank you.
Scott, would you also give them an update on the water bills? shipment for this year, what we're anticipating.
They pushed it back, was it April now? So that the anticipated ship date for the water nodes to get back on the meter update is April now, so it was March, it's pushed back again. He sounded like he was pretty confident in that, but we've been
Yeah,
hearing
right.
confident for quite a while, so.
Well, we'll get to, we want to look forward to your update next month. City of Princeton update. Showing your first on the list.
All right, recent activities since our last meeting, we've changed the fees for the fire department. Gone from a flat rate to an hourly rate. That went through the fire advisory board and then up to the city council. We are also, on Thursday's meeting, there'll be a first reading of an ordinance which will allow the city to assess unpaid fire call bills to real property, regardless of county. So we have roughly, let's just say there's a lot of money that's outstanding that's been owed over the years. And so it will be a retroactive ordinance. So we'll be working with staff to start digging out addresses and counties. And people have already gotten 2 notices. They'll get a 3rd notice that says, if you don't pay up, we're going to assess. So we have to collect monies that are owed to us for services provided.
Yeah.
We're working on one of the items on the agenda for Thursday is an application to get some assistance from WSB, the city's engineer, to help us with the full application for an infrastructure grant, the Small Cities Development Program for the 7th Avenue improvement project. So our initial application was deemed marginally competitive. So that gives us the ability to put in a full application. So between the 600,000 from there and the ARPA funds, we're starting to get some monies together. And then we've been working cooperatively with the county. They're going to actually reconstruct that street as opposed to just do a mill and overlay. So tentatively, I think if I remember right, it's a 2024 project because they'll use county state aid funds. So Keith and Jeremy and Scott we're keeping everybody in the loop. So anyway, more to come. The application is due in March. Can't remember the exact date. And of course, you can't email it. You can't fax it. It has to be actually hand delivered and placed either in the office or in the cart outside the office. But anyway, so we're working on that. We are required to have a public hearing, so that'll be scheduled for the end of February, just before the application needs to be put together. So also on Thursday's council agenda is a proposal from WSB to begin the plan, design, and bid documents for the business park infrastructure. We are still waiting for word from the federal government on whether or not half that project will be funded from the federal EDA grant. I'm hoping that an announcement one way or the other is imminent. Regardless, I mean, obviously, if we can get half of the project funded, that means less capital outlay for others involved. And there's also some other things in there like an emergency sirens. We can put a second one on the south end, on the other side of 169, and some other things. So it's kind of an important piece, but we can't wait for them to decide or to tell us. So we're moving forward with starting the bidding process or the plan development in the bidding process so that we can, if everything goes well, the infrastructure will be in roughly by August. So based on the schedule. And Keith has I sent Keith a copy of the proposal letter, so he's aware, and we'll be chatting more about that. WSB has also put together a proposal for doing an updated transportation plan and a payment management plan. And those two plans will be combined with the city's sewer plan to start our infrastructure prioritization, to try to figure out, you know, where we're gonna start, how we're gonna fund stuff and those types of things. So that'll be a spring, summer project. So more to come on the results of that later this year. Our new tech services manager started 2 weeks ago, and he's already working on cost savings, looking at a different way to obtain our email and office licenses and get more people on for just, I think the end result was we're gonna pay like $380 more than we would have with the changes he's made. We're adding people on. There'll be, we'll go from Zoom to Teams because that's part of the license package. There's also SharePoint, so we're sharing documents across the network so people can simultaneously be working on things. So I think we'll have some increased efficiencies. He's also looking at consolidating our 2 phone systems, because the PD has 1 phone system, the City Hall, and liquor store have different. So we're trying to get things under one vendor, so that including who provides phone service. So like, for example, wastewater is on Windstream, everybody else is on Midco. So we're trying to, you know, again, bundle things, negotiate better pricing, those types of things. So he's digging into things and having a grand time by the looks of it. He comes into my office and gives me updates with a smile on his face. So we did the liquor store update and facelift. So new floor covering, less clutter, lower stacks. I think it's looking quite nice. We've got lots of compliments. We've switched. The manager's office used to be in the back, towards the back of the store. The break room was up front, so we've actually flipped those. So now the manager's office is up front. Dylan is really liking that. Dylan Donner, the assistant manager, was promoted to official manager in December. Well, he officially started as a manager on January 9th, but so there's been some continuity there, and that's good. And he's got a lot of really good ideas. And we're still slowly picking our way through our classification compensation study, and we are also talking to developers. And now I'm going to hand it over to Jules for his update.
I don't have that. No, I do.
Yeah, you do. You brought a man.
This past, thank you. This past Monday, the developer, I think his name is Scott Moeller, and Eldon Johnson met with the park board. And they just wanted, it's in the initial planning stages, or they have discussions with the Princeton School District. They want to purchase the property, which would be north of the middle school and northeast of the middle school. And by doing that, they want to put in a development that would be approximately 75 homes. And not only would the homes be there, but they would be able to provide the bathroom facilities by the softball, baseball fields right now. There's 4, there's actually seven fields, 3, 4, 5 softball and 2 baseball, little kid baseball, I think up to age 12. And they put in bathrooms also, and concessions, and a new parking area with a new entry and exit street, so people would not have to walk so far from the school all the way to those parks. So it's in the initial planning stages and negotiations with the district and that sort of thing. But the park board was very well received, and hopefully something like this will go forward. And it would be really really a nice asset for the city as well as the school there too. It's a win-win thing if they can make things work.
We actually have a joint staff meeting between our staff and the PUC staff on the 14th with the developer to talk about infrastructure and services and those types of things. So
If you're interested, I have the layout that they did. Take a look at it after the meeting if you want to see it. So, nice, it'd be a nice thing.
What was Boland's first name?
I believe it's Scott.
Scott.
Yeah.
And those two are the developers.
He's the developer and he's utilizing, I believe, Eldon Johnson's services as well. Eldon Johnson and Scott. And some of those homes would be, if you picture along the Rum River up there. Some nice big lots. As well as,
Beautiful area.
yeah, very nice.
Continued growth, great.
That's all I have. Michelle covered it.
too much, but you guys.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Anything else?
No.
General manager subject, Mr. Butcher.
Yes, sir. Again, lots of great stuff going on, continuing to streamline and improve our operations. One thing, just want to let the commission know that given the reorganization of duties and increased accountability that we've had internally over the last couple of years, we did get our quote back for workers' comp insurance, which was about $10,000 lower than the previous year. So got some savings that way. We have, as you know, fully converted to an electric AMI system, and we're working on the water. Debbie gleefully reported that this month, when we did our meter reading, it was the first one in which she didn't have any no-read errors. Never happened before. So the system is just becoming very robust, very reliable. We're getting our data and we're able to just move on without having to go back and triage any errors. So again, all really good stuff that's going on. We have updated our billing software to accommodate the city's sewer rate increase for 2022. It was a little bit more of a manual process than I anticipated, but everything has been changed. We successfully moved our servers to the server room down in the basement. This is providing us for some enhanced security and protection from any accidents or any other events that might happen. We do have disconnections planned for tomorrow, and so we'll be ready for that as well. On the energy efficiency rebate side of things, we do have commercial rebates being issued to the city of Princeton for their wastewater treatment plant, Mike's Discount Foods, Heavenly Fresh Restaurant, and US Bank, all received rebates for making equipment upgrades at their facilities. As folks know, this is my regulatory reporting season. So we have filed our SIPA DER reimbursement report. We have filed our OSHA report. We filed our APPA safety report. Also completed all air permit reports to finish up 2021, which includes the CR04 and DRF02, but also the new DRF01 that the audit last year mentioned that we need to start reporting on. So all of those were submitted. Did file a wellhead protection plan implementation strategy for the Minnesota Department of Health as part of our extension request for that project. And then upcoming reports in the near term, our pay equity report is due January 31st, which I have later on in the agenda. Our Empires report, which is water consumption numbers, that is due February 15th. So those are the next two that are on my list. For customer outreach, Nancy, our rep from SIPA, has been helping to coordinate check-ins with our largest customers. So Nancy, Jeremy, Scott, and I met with two of our large customers here in town on Monday, January 10th. It was a very positive meeting. We discussed utility plans for the near term, listened to their thoughts on the upcoming year. Both were very pleased with the service that PPU is providing for them. And actually, both of them made comments to me about how many of their peers are experiencing various issues nationwide, not necessarily just Minnesota, but things that they don't have to worry about in Princeton as it relates to reliability and just being involved. And Nancy's been doing a lot of great work in understanding their process and doing what we can to help their operation. So not just supplying electricity, but being a partner with them in their operations. And then with the extreme cold temperatures, we have heard from a couple of customers that were concerned about some frozen water lines. The ground temperatures are pretty low at the moment. I did post on Facebook and our website this morning just recommendations that if you're concerned that your frozen, that your water service lines can freeze, and you have a history of that, there are a couple of houses in the community that over the years has had a problem here and there. That the recommendation is to run a little stream of water, just to make sure that the water continues to flow so that we don't get busted pipes. A lot of water utilities around the state are putting out those notices because of this most recent cold snap that we're experiencing. So keep an eye on those water lines. If your water temperature drops too low, constant throughput helps with that. For SIMPA, a couple things I wanted to mention that they're dealing with. I kind of alluded to it in reference to their minutes. Sherco was taken offline on December 1st, brought back online on December 21st. It was a forced offline outage. And then they experienced a forced offline outage on the 25th due to tube leak. Excel completed those repairs and had the unit back online by the 31st. Continued with the continued coal deliveries that they received through December, and they've also instituted a coal conservation effort. SIMPA now has sufficient coal inventory going into 2022, so no more concerns about the coal inventory there. For 2022, SIMPA is planning to do several activities as they move forward. One is they're doing their own cost of service study, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They are now purchasing their coal for Sherco 3 through Excel Energy, so they're doing more of a joint process with that. They got their 2021 integrated resource plan approved. We are continuing discussions on post 2030 in terms of the generation of resources that SIMPA is going to have available for the membership. There are a couple of the quick start contracts that are planning to be that will be expiring. So they're going to start looking into what that contract extension process is going to look like. The quick start contract is that's number 7. So we have a quick start contract with them, but we're one of the later ones, I believe. I don't remember when that contract expires, but it'll be interesting. We'll keep tabs on that just so we make sure we understand what that process is for renewal when our time comes. They are also investigating some EV incentives. What, if anything, SIMPA might want to do on that. They're updating their disaster recovery plan and business continuity plan. They have several team member retirements coming up, so they're preparing for that. And they continue to monitor MPCA's treatment of the 1-hour NO2 permitting requirements. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned that Delano, when they went to go get their air permit renewal, received some concerns from the PCA regarding NO2 emissions. And there's been just a discussion. The governor's office has gotten involved as well as to what is an appropriate level for municipal utilities. Our generators are not running all the time, but they're also not just pure emergency. So what is the appropriate air permit associated with that? So there's some discussion going on there.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Jack, here a question about our running and so forth. Did we get any from an Inco? Did we get any advance notice on it from those guys at all?
SIMPA has been, yes, so, well, SIMPA, and we get the communication from SIMPA.
Yeah.
And they have been very good at saying, especially when they're projecting out weather, to say, hey, it looks like something, we're experiencing either very warm temperatures or very cold temperatures. They have, their software is very extensive in terms of their monitoring. So they often are able to give us a heads up that, hey, next week is looking a little tight, let's let's make sure we have staff available in case. We haven't had a situation where there's been just an emergency out of the blue, where also we've had to run, so.
But the forecasting all this week has been, it's awful. It's the end. Earth as we know it, it's going to be freezing 40 below. So I was wondering if during this, when the public is getting this, obviously MISO and others folks in the chain should be MISO through SIPA gets word to us to, stand by or did I get that kind of information?
Yeah, and in fact, I got a notification this morning stating that SIPA was reaching their monthly peak. I have some upcoming events, APPA and MMUA. Well, MMUA has their legislative event February 8th and 9th, which is now virtual. I have got the commission update on that. And then APPA is having an event that's next month. There's a couple of SIPA members going to that. The House DFL did release a climate action plan in preparation for the start of the legislative session. It totaled about $1 billion in requested spending, 105 million for the energy sector, 376.5 million for the transportation sector, 355 million for the built environment, 130 million for lands, and then 33.5 million for adaptation and resilience. Again, that's just in preparation for the legislative session. Of course, there's a lot of time between now and something that goes in front of the governor's desk, but the House DFL has put out a climate action plan as a goal of theirs. Areas that MMUA will be monitoring this year on the legislative front includes increased attention on renewables as well as how those are interconnected into the grid. Electric vehicles, pay equity reports that governments are required to file, including municipal utilities, cybersecurity issue, the salary cap, PFAS, which is the forever chemicals, which I think I mentioned before, making sure that we preserve our drinking water for our communities, any bonding that might come up this year, and then any investments that might be made in broadband. All those areas that MWA is going to be monitoring this year. They expect those to be ones that folks are going to talk about. I already mentioned that the legislative rally is February 8th and 9th. It has switched to a virtual rally. If the commission is interested, I sent out the registration for it. So happy to attend on that. Unless there's any questions that needs my GM report, please.
Well, thank you much for that. I just, I might mention I read this week that Dave Geschman, who is the CEO at SIPA, was elected to the board of directors at APPA, American Public Power Association. So nice to have one of our guys on the board there. Keeps Minnesota front and center there, I hope. Okay. Thank you, Keith. Ongoing. System long-term plan.
Yes, as we've been discussing, we are looking at, we have been discussing a 10-year capital plan to improve the distribution system here in Princeton. And that was split up into 3 phases. As we look forward to continue to move down that process, DGR did put together 2 different task orders to start doing some of the engineering work associated with phase 1. So in your packets is a task order for the preliminary design phase for phase one in the amount of $14,500, and that's to allow them to read through the scope. Meet with staff to review improvements to be made to the client's distribution system as identified in the capital improvements plan. Determine the file area to be converted. Conduct field work to ascertain the required facilities necessary to develop the circuitry, including development of work scope definition by all parties. Prepare a preliminary layout of the new 12,470 kV underground primary electric utility, including proposed connections and switching locations for tying in the new 12,470 underground distribution system to the existing system. Provide an updated detailed cost estimate for the project. Develop a project schedule for permitting, procurement, bidding, construction, and energization. And then compile the above design information in correspondence for review by the client to be able to proceed to final design, bidding, and construction phases. So this is just to have DGR do the work so we can figure out what all this really entails for phase one, what it's going to cost. The second work order, also from DGR, is to do a coordination study, which is to look at all the protective equipment, including the relays and fuses, to ensure they operate as intended, and that any miscoordination is minimized. Facilities that they'll look at is the north substation, the power plant substation, which includes the generation facilities, the south substation, our 4160 distribution system, and the 12470 distribution system. And propose changes to the relay settings and fuse sizes if changes are needed, and issue a report for the client to look at. The coordination study would be has a fee amount associated with it of $15,800, and then the relay settings implementation is $1,900. That is meant to help us in that planning. So as we move forward with this, do it in the right way, that everybody points on while we upgrade the system and create it as robust and as reliable as we can. So this is just the first step.
So with exhibit A and then B, that's what you're calling 1 and 2. A's.
It is,
Okay.
yes.
So do they happen 1 and then 2? Or do they have their staff working on both of those at one time?
I'm assuming it would work in parallel. There's no reason why it wouldn't.
That's one.
Unless Jeremy knows something, I don't know.
No, I would assume that, yeah, that they would be
It's not
at
1
the
and
same
then 2,
time.
it's 1 or 2.
I would think it would be done at the same time.
Okay. That's good.
Looking for a motion to approve those expenses.
I am. They can be done together if you wish.
I would make a motion for the exhibit A task order and exhibit B to approve as submitted from DGR. engineering.
If I could offer just a clarification.
Sure.
One is, the first one is task order number 3 in your packets. Just so that your references are, and then.
Yeah, I was going by the
Okay.
exhibit.
Yeah, they're both exhibit A.
Yeah,
So really, it's a reference to the task order number
task order 3.
and task order 4. is the second.
So
So task order 3 and 4.
second,
I
motion is carried. Okay, moving down to B, the two rate study.
Yeah, just what I meant, we did have, again, we've got some pre-audit numbers, but a lot of our 2021 numbers are coming in. I started sharing that with DGR as part of our 2022 rate study, and I know that they have started, that they're starting to dig into it. So that I just want to mention the project is underway.
excellent.
C, ACH discussion and memo.
Yes, sir. In your packets, under memorandum 22-01. At the November and December commission meetings, the commission directed staff to provide residential customers who successfully pay by ACH a 3% credit from their water charges. we have been working with our contractors to find a way to implement that. The commission's purpose in offering a 3% water credit to residential customers is to recognize the lower administrative burden serving those customers who pay regularly through the ACH process, thereby lowering the utility's cost to serve. Those customers that successfully pay the ACH from the utility office will receive a 3% credit water customer charge and then the water volumetric charge in the next month's bill. So then I have a proposed timeline that at the end of January, we're mailing bills out that are due on February 12th. If a customer is enrolled in ACH by February 1st, because we do need time to verify everything, and that payment is successfully completed in full by the February 12th due date, the February bills will then be calculated at 3% credit is added to the account based on the new charges. Then at the end of February, the bills are mailed that are due on March 12th, and those are the bills that will include the 3% credit. If at any time the ACH is denied, such as insufficient funds through no fault of the utility, the credit will be suspended until after the next successful ACH completion. After working with our contractors and looking at our internal process, that seemed to be the best way to approach this issue to make sure that we're meeting the commission's desires. So wanted to put that out there, see what comments the commission might have, and there. So I'm looking for discussion at this point.
I think that looks good. It's what we discussed, and putting it into motion in that manner makes sense to me.
Putting it into motion in that manner gives you the overlap, so you can catch up and make sure everybody's on the same page going forward. That's I think it's important, but it's also prudent. The only issue I have, if you scroll down to the very bottom where it says recommendation, this process will continue every month thereafter. Does that mean in perpetuity, ad infinitum? Is that what we're suggesting for this program?
Well, the commission's motion did not have a sunset in it, so that is how that's how I have to write it.
I think that we had a statement or mention that we would have the ability to change the functionality of that process.
So here's my concern. When Dan brought this up, and this was clearly Dan's idea, and I supported 100%. But it was a promotion put in place to encourage people with money to move to the ACH program. I think it was great. But I thought I understood it then as a promotion to get people to move over. I didn't think it was a lifetime program. We called it a lifetime program because it's too expensive. But if we're willing to say, okay, this is for 2022, we're going to do this, and we'll reevaluate when we look at 2023, then I think we should march forward. But I want to have that caveat in.
I understand your concern. I thought I read someplace too that a trial for 6 months, but I don't think that was actually, detailed in that manner. But I think that was part of the overall discussion, that we could be tried for 6 months, but that would be within this group, and we can make the adjustments as we go. That was my understanding. So it wouldn't necessarily be in perpetuity, but it's there now. And I think as we see month 1, month 2, I'm going to ask you for a report on how is it going. This commission's going to ask that report, and it'll be under the next one. And I think we're going to get a real quick idea, is this promotion working, or people don't care, they're still going to pay the way they always have. And then we went through a lot of nervousness, not trying to hurt anybody, but I think that's the way I see it, as if it really blows up, then we make changes. But if it's working, then everybody wins.
My only concern there is that we put these budgets together on an annualized basis. So if we're going to do something, is this something worthwhile to carry on for this year and evaluate, so that by the So by that December meeting where we try to finalize, we go through a certain amount of agony in December, trying to make sure we get all the numbers straight. So that December meeting, we say, yeah, here's the budget for the coming year. We just put this in place, call it the 2022 program, and we'll reevaluate and see if we need to do something different for 2023. Maybe we need to make it 4%. Maybe we need to discontinue.
Right.
We need to have that conversation in the context of this is our budget for the coming. So I don't know if it's appropriate, Keith, because of the way this memo has been written. It says this process will continue every month thereafter. Do we need to rephrase that to say this is time off for,
Well, this is just a recommendation. It's not quite the stamp that says this is fully.
this is the recommendation of the staff,
Right.
but I interpret this as a request for a motion to carry forward. Am I wrong?
No, I am looking to make sure that we are meeting what the commission has requested us to do.
I think we'd have to go back to what the actual vote, not the vote, but the motion was when we had it up on the screen.
Yeah, but there wasn't a sunset.
Well, then, and that works both ways.
Yeah.
We can create an end time at 6 months if we want. But I would just as soon see it play out the way it's written. And I think the results, the first 3 months are going to tell such a story that it's working or it's not going to work. And if we're only helping 10 people, we're going to find out that we don't have to even offer it then.
I'm okay with that, Rick. The only thing I'm saying is, I think we ought to put that time frame in here so that we know that we're going to reevaluate in 3 months. Here's a promotion. You're going to get a discount on your new Chevrolet if you buy it in January. Is this a promotion to get people to move it to ACH, or is this an ongoing program that we're going to have every month thereafter?
I'm still sure I saw 6 months in my notes or something.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. I wouldn't have a problem with 6 months. And maybe we need to make it, like you said, 4%. Or maybe we cancel it.
Yeah, I don't
So
know
that you just, a year might be too long, but then who does it hurt if it's a year long? So
Well,
how
and the other
many
thing
new
is,
people do you get each month?
I'm sorry.
How many new customers do you get each month?
I want to say like a dozen new applications.
So if there's a dozen, 144 households that sign up, and if that, the ACH can be, the favorite payment that we'd like to see, that could, if it's a 12-month program, that could be really the selling point there to have those 144 people to sign up on ACH. If it's a year, then maybe that's the better time. And that's 12 per month, 144, that's that would be a good promotion to run the whole time. I don't know if there's a time that's busier, summer's busy, spring, fall.
my concern is the phraseology here. If you say it's 12 months, the guy signs up in September, it's 12 months. I think we have to, say, this is a promotion we're running right now for the year of 2022.
If, in my eyes, they don't get it for that, they get it because they signed up for ACH. I don't know that you can come back and unless the commission makes a different business decision. In my eyes, it was, you are signing up for ACH, anybody on the ACH will get that 3%.
Right.
For how long? Just like any, if you want to call it a 12-month program. But I think that's the reason why we didn't put an end date, because we don't know how it's gonna to pan out in the first few months.
Right. And so if we do, if you remember it's correct, I don't remember, but rings a bell for some reason.
Yeah, and that's what kind of, but if it's not in that motion, then, and Dan's the one that made it, he's not here.
Right.
So
We're
I
still-
would just like to see it. We've been working on this for such a long, long time. We have the right to change at will, and obviously if somebody signs up for it, we're not going to cancel it in 2 months.
Well, why don't we put the 6 months in? Let's just, because at the end of 6 months, if we say this is successful, let's keep it going, we can do that.
Right.
But at least it puts a window on that says somebody comes in the door tomorrow and says, Kathy, I want to sign up for ACH. Okay, here's the deal. And we're going to get 6 months of 3% of the water bill.
It creates an urgency too,
Right.
so which would make the plan more effective in my eyes.
And then, you know, the backside of this coin, of course, is you've got software issues to worry about, make sure everything. Do we have the ability to do it for 6 months and then switch back, forth and back, or continue?
Yes, we set it up in a way so it's personal.
Okay.
Okay.
So, you know, if we can amend this recommendation or add it, when we make the motion, that this is a 6 month program to take us through the end of June or something. What is?
Yeah, we wouldn't necessarily add it to the recommendation, we just make our own motion.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say, you could adopt the memo with the addition of that the software expires in August of 2022 unless the commission decides. different. Something like that.
Sure, let's do that.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so then I, as the chairman, will make the motion. That we accept the staff's recommendation with the additional comment that this motion will run through the end of August 2022.
Second.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
D, convenience fee. There's an update here. Keith, will you jump into that?
Yes, sir. Memorandum 22-02 on the convenience fees. Staff will continue to develop a plan to implement a credit card fee on all customers that use the credit card. We've been working with our contractor, Neon, to develop a mechanism to collect the convenience fee on all credit card purchases. After working with Complete Merchant Solutions, we have presented a new user agreement. We have presented with a new user agreement that will allow us to continue processing credit cards as a means of payment. The new terms is that the credit card fee will increase from $2 per transaction to 2.5% per transaction. Neon Link is confident that they can come up with a way to collect the credit card fee at the time of transaction. It is expected that Neon Link will have to issue 2 transactions, one for the utility bill amount and one for the convenience fee. These will then show up as separate individual line items on the customer's credit card statements. The original motion adopted by the commission in November of 2021 was that PPU would charge a maximum convenience fee of $2.40 per transaction as allowed by law. Under the terms of new user agreement, the language would need to be updated to correlate to the new transaction fee, which is 2.5%. Neon Link would be able to collect this fee and submit it directly to CMS, thereby avoiding the intermediate step of sending funds to PPU that then needs to be passed on. Neon Link anticipates they need 30 days to reprogram their processing system to accommodate this new change. As part of the process, all current audit will be suspended, and that AP will not be processed along with any credit card payment. If all is acceptable to the commission, staff will work to establish a schedule for conversion. Under the recommendation, staff is looking for production of several items. One, does the commission wish to amend its previous motion to match the new user agreement with CMS? And if acceptable, does the commission wish to make a motion accepting the terms of the new user agreement?
And in that agreement, my understanding that you are stating it as a percentage rather than a dollar.
Correct.
Okay. And then who came up with the 2.5?
That was CMS's quote, the survey. That's what they are going to charge us for all credit card transactions.
Yes, just a side note. I see you smiling over there.
Who, me?
No. It's okay, it's okay. How does this impact, because they're paying 2.5% is gonna be, just the nature of the beast, I think we won't get around that. But we're charging 2.5% of that total bill, so some of that cost is being borne by the city. Right? Yes.
No, the customer's paying the 2.5%.
Right, so it doesn't impact those big checks that we send to the city each month.
Correct.
So it all comes out, yes, okay. So in fact, the consumer is paying 2.5% on their sewer bill as well.
Correct. It's for the total amount.
Gotcha. Okay,
Just for an example, I just used the $75 just for numbers for an average electric bill, not the whole bill, but the electric bill. And that would equate out to at 2.5%, $1.88. And I just ran a 3%. That, not that we want to be higher. That comes out to $2.25. For whatever that information is worth. At $2.40, we're covering that expense. So I'm fine with that.
The 2.5%.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those, we march forward.
Is there any room to bargain with them? I mean, it's,
Well, keep in mind, this is their offering and they want to reevaluate it in 6 months, depending upon what the actual volumes are that they see.
maybe that's where I got the 6 months from.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah. You're looking for, I think this is one of those things we just go. So
Okay, but I do need a motion to accept the new.
that's what I'm going with. So if you need a motion,
I would make that motion to change the wording to the 2.5%.
as recommended by staff,
Correct.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
And then, I'm sorry, I will need another motion, just accepting the user agreement, approving the user agreement to implement the new fee.
And that's the revised user agreement.
That's right, the CMS
Yeah, okay.
contract.
I would like to make that motion to use the new revised version of CMS.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did you get both those? Thank you. Okay. New business. Pay equity report.
Yes, sir, your packets under memorandum 22-03, we are required as a local government jurisdiction to submit a pay equity report every 3 years. Our next report is due on January 31st, 2022. Approval from the governing body is required in order to submit a report. Information was entered into the pay equity system at the state using information as of December 31st, 2021. The key metric in determining compliance is called the underpayment ratio, which is defined as the minimum requirement to pass a statistical test, which looks at the percentage of male classes below a predicted pay with the percentage of female classes below the predicted pay. So the pay equity report is really to ensure that similarly skilled positions are paid. If the other jurisdictions with an underpayment ratio below 80% can improve their score by a few different things. If you're above 80%, you are determined to be in compliance. PPU's underpayment ratio is 90%. Since this is greater than 80%, PPU complies with the Minnesota Pays Equity Act, and no further analysis is required. The recommendation then is that the commission recommend approval of the 2022 Minnesota Pay Equity Report so that it can be filed with the state by the January 31st. I need a motion. It's just to accept The motion is just to accept the pay equity.
Make a motion to accept that recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. B,
Yes, sir. Memorandum 22-04, deposit refund terms. In October, the commission had directed PPU to implement a deposit return policy based on a credit check through our contractor. That process has worked well. However, we have run into a situation that the commission may wish to consider refining the definition of a successful credit check. The credit check, just to recap, was several factors, and a negative result means that the applicant does not pass. A positive result means that the applicant passes. PPU, the first step that we do is that PPU does perform an ID verification. If the name, social security number, and or address does not match, the credit check will be negative. 2, the commission directed PPU to implement a credit score minimum of approximately 650. As a result, PPU instructed our contractor to set our limits higher than their default. 3, our contractor had a list of several other financial parameters that it considers, and the commission can change any of these as it so chooses. The credit filing is not scorable regardless of credit history, which we return a negative. And then whether the applicant has a Chapter 7 bankruptcy that is active, whether they have a Chapter 7 bankruptcy that has been discharged or dismissed, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy that is active, a Chapter 13 bankruptcy that has been discharged or dismissed, any unpaid utility debts, non-PPU related, or any unpaid telecom debts. Those will result currently as a negative. It is to be returned as a credit on their account. There is a request to revisit the bankruptcy terms. Currently, bankruptcy on file, they do return a negative response. That can be there can be a sunset, a limit to that, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, 5. We can completely ignore it altogether. If I may, I did talk to Commissioner Erickson about this. He found that even for those who experience a bankruptcy, because it does have a negative impact on the credit score, and the credit scores that we have in place are significant. If you have a bankruptcy, in the numbers he told me was in 12 to 18 months, you could be back up to 575. We're still at 650. So Mr. Erickson communicated to me that he felt that we have a high enough credit score that we probably should just, his opinion would be to not even look at bankruptcies. And he would just completely get rid of that as a metric at all. However, like I said, you could say anything within a set period of time is important, and anything older than that period of time, we are not going to include in our analysis. And so staff is looking for direction as to how the commission wants to approach this.
I think it's really, we're not doing this to penalize or hurt anyone. So if you file bankruptcy and then your credit score is up here already, that would be penalized because there's 7 years. So I would agree with Commissioner Erickson's thinking there.
Okay, so we will remove any references to the bankruptcy as causing.
Because credit score already
credit
clarifies
score
that.
is
Okay.
Yeah, it would be
mitigated down.
a little bit backwards that your score is so good, but this thing is still hanging out there.
Okay, so if I could, and then, like I said, he still felt like we should look at unpaid utility debts, since he did find that to be an indicator of the likelihood that we will get paid. So he did agree with keeping that on, and he did also communicate to me that he thought returning the deposit as a credit on the account was still valid. Of course, if somebody moves out, then obviously we should check it out. But if that's acceptable, I guess the only thing I would really need is just a
Just to waive the bankruptcy,
yeah, just to wait the
because everything else is
wait the
fine.
bankruptcy limitation.
That'll be my motion then, is to waive on the credit checks, the bankruptcy clause by itself, because we do have the high scores in place to qualify for it now. So I would make that motion to remove the bankruptcy qualification or attention to it.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Next on the list.
Next item on the agenda is memo 22-05 deposit interest rates. Each year, the commission is required to establish the interest rate to be paid on all customer deposits. Under Minnesota statute, the Minnesota Department of Commerce did announce their new interest rate for 2022, which is 0.2%. Staff is recommending that the commission therefore establish the 2022 deposit interest rate at 0.2% per state guidelines.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do you know if the Fed made any announcement yesterday?
I don't.
I didn't hear anything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Tort liability waiver form.
Yes, sir. Memo 22-06 in your packets. Each year, the commission must decide whether to waive or not waive statutory tort liability limits. Includes for your approval is the liability coverage waiver form developed by the League of Minnesota Cities. PPU has historically chosen to not waive the monetary limits on municipal tort liability, and staff recommends that we continue and also and not waive the monetary limits on municipal tort liability for 2022.
I would make a motion to continue that as we have in the past and not waive.
Motion seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Motion on cogeneration, small power.
Yes, sir. In memorandum 22-07 in your packets, the cogeneration and small power production tariff. Each year, the commission is required to update the cogeneration and small power production tariff, which is posted on our website. Enclosed for your approval per the distributed generation rules for principal public utilities adopted by this commission on February 28th of 2018 are the updates to that tariff. They consist of Schedule 1, which is the calculation of the average retail utility energy rates, and Schedule 4, which is the estimated average incremental energy cost by seasonal peak and off-peak periods, which for us doesn't have a whole lot to do with that, but it does also include the annual avoided capacity costs for SIPA. This information is available to the public at our offices or on our website. Upon approval of the tariff, Princeton Public Utilities will publish a cogeneration small power generation notice on our website at princetonutilities.com. Below the summary of the annual QF qualifying facility report, also required under distributed generation rules. We had three customers that have their own generating units, and you'll see in the table in amount. You'll see the total amounts generated that we purchased back from them for 2021. Staff recommends adopting the 2022 distributed generation rules for Princeton Public Utilities and updating the cogeneration and small power production tariff. And SIPA's a big help. They help fill out all that stuff for us. So it's nice to have them involved.
I'll make a motion to accept that recommendation as stated. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just Mr. Lowline, you see an uptick in small generation in your neck of the woods?
Yes, we've had 4 applications come in the past year. The rate is
Really?
really taken off. We processed over 100 last year. So
Happy days.
it is happening. It is the future.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
We currently have 2 apps. Process. The table you'll see we had.
We're declining. I don't think it's going to go up. More and more people. Anyway, roof replacement schedule discussion.
Yeah, this is more of an update. In our one of our large projects budget for 2022 is a roof replacement for roof 1 and 2, which is over the generating units. We have budgeted $70,000 in there per McDowell's recommendation. We have communicated with SIPA. SIPA has requested that we postpone that roof replacement for a year. Since it covers the old units, SIPA does help with that. They will be funding half of that cost. So if we could put it off for the next year, it won't be $70,000 out of our budget, but $35,000 out of our budget. SIPA assistance. So again, I don't think I need a motion on all that. I just want to make sure you're aware that that one project will be, as we've learned more information, will be postponed until 2022.
Okay, thank you. Tour discussion. This is we've had talked about it in the past, but Commissioner Schwartz brought it up at maybe the last meeting, maybe a couple of meetings ago. That's something we really ought to be doing or should do. Man, I think this is, we need to discuss it because I don't want this to fall off the table. This is something that would be good for us, good for me anyway. To do both tours from the electrical side and from the water side. Better idea of what's actually going on. Where is that water going? Where are all those AMI meters? Just get a better handle on what the guys are doing out there so we can, when people on the street bump into us while I'm getting a haircut, I can answer intelligently about what we're doing here. But I don't, one of the things that I'm thinking about clearly on a day like today is marching out between buildings at 20 below. Might there be a better time to do this? Take a nice spring day and say, okay, this would be a good time to do it. Unless there's a different urgency. Rick, this is your deal. Chime in.
Not today. You know, I think with this cold weather and it's hard to set a date. I would maybe look at towards the end of March at the earliest.
We can talk about it when Dan's here too. He may have some insight, but I just don't want it to slide off the table. So that's why
Oh, and I appreciate that because I do agree that it's important that as commissions change and councils change and workers change, to actually get out there and see exactly what that name means.
Yeah.
It's that.
No.
So, and if March ends up being too much snow or too muddy or whatever, just, but yeah, to have it on the agenda ongoing is good until we get it done.
Got it. Okay. So Keith, that's directed to you now, is just make sure we revisit this in each month until we get a date. Nailed it. Yes, sir. Okay. In that case, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Can I just share a short story for everyone? You can think about it.
Do we need a motion? Yes, go ahead.
Guys, you might like this too. I think everyone might like this, but the AMI's proof in action. Okay. I think Keith, the restaurant, notified you about their electric being so high. What can we do? And they're in the restaurant business. They've got a lot of refrigerants and everything else going on. And then I've known the owner for years. And so the information that Keith sent to that restaurant, they sent to me to see if I could just look at it from my eyes. And the AMI report every 15 minutes. You know, so you've got 2 miles of some numbers.
I love Debbie.
But what's so cool about this is that one day out of the month of December. So there's 96 hits every 15 minutes in a 24-hour day. And I was able to see exactly, you know, when they were closed, but I was also, and then when they're open. But when they were open, still wasn't this over the 25 kW. It was, here's 15 minutes, it's fine. Here's 15 minutes, bam, they'll spark up to 30 kW. 15 minutes later, it's gone. And that was very easy to see that pattern. So I suggested that it's not the rate that you want to chase, it's you've got something inside your building that is triggering that jump, that spike. And they didn't know, they were trying to figure it out. So I gave them that information, and now they're going to try and determine that. So the complaint in the start might be one thing, but in reality, it's in their house that may be causing it. Because on a normal non-operation, they might be only running like 7 kW, okay, maybe 9, just at night. But even when they're running during the day, they might be at 12 or 15, 16. And all of a sudden, whatever it's kicking in, it's sending them way above 25 to 30, 35, but only for that little short duration. So without the AMI, we wouldn't be able to, pick that detailed of information. So I found that enjoyable doing that research for them. And it's all on Excel. So
Good
I
stuff.
think it's really valuable because I just kind of turned it around. So you do your thing and there may not even be a complaint issue. I just wanted to share that.
That's very interesting stuff.
It is. I found it fascinating.
AMI is going to shed that kind of light on.
Yeah.
Several customers ought to be looking at that, if they're trying to work their bills down, that ought to be the first thing that they request. Where are the people?
Yeah.
So am I on AMI, by the way?
All the electrics are perfect, yes. So
My bill is monthly. I think I know what the problem is. I'm using
You want me to do an
electricity.
analysis on it?
I'll send you my bill. Motion's been made to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Motion is carried. Thank you all.
Thank you. Jules, can I take a peek at that